You now know 2 out of the 3 ways to use require, and in this one, we're going to explore the last way, which is to require a package you've installed from npm. As I mentioned in the first section, npm is a big part of what makes Node so fantastic. There is a huge community of developers that have created thousands of packages that already solve some of the most common problems in Node applications. We are going to be taking advantage of quite a few packages throughout the course. Now, in these packages, there's nothing magical. It's regular Node code that aims to solve a specific problem. The reason you'd want to use it is so you don't have to spend all your time writing these utility functions that already exist. Not only do they exist, they've been tested, they've been proven to work, others have used them and documented them. Now, with all that said, how do we get started? Well, to get started, we actually have to run a command from the terminal to tell our application we want to use npm modules. That command is going to get run over in the terminal. Make sure you've navigated inside of your project folder. Right here, you can see I am inside of the Notes Node directory. Now, when you installed Node, you also installed something called npm, which at one point stood for Node Package Manager, but there's now an on-running joke because there is plenty of things on npm that are not specific to Node. A lot of front-end frameworks like jQuery and React now live on npm as well. So they've pretty much ditched the Node Package Manager explanation, and now on their site they cycle between a bunch of hilarious things that happen to match up with npm. Regardless though, we are going to be running some npm commands, and you can test that you have it installed by running npm space -v. We're running npm with the v flag, which should print the version, and right here you can see I'm on version 3.9.5. It's okay if your version is slightly different. That's not important. What is important is that you have npm installed. From here, we're going to run a command called npm init. npm init is going to prompt you to fill out a few questions about your npm project. We can go ahead and run the command, and we can cycle through the questions. Up above is a quick description of what's happening, and down below, it's going to start asking you a few questions. First up is the name. Now, your name can't have uppercase characters or spaces. Notes Node works great. I can hit enter to use the default value, which is in parentheses. For the version, 1.0.0 works fine too. We are going to leave most of these at their default value. We can leave the description empty. The entry point is going to be app.js. Make sure that shows up right here. Next up, we have a test command. We're going to explore testing later in the course, so for now, we can leave this empty. After that, we have a Git repository section. We're going to leave that empty for now as well. We have some keywords which are used for searching for modules. We're not going to be publishing this module, so we can leave those empty. Lastly, we have an author. You might as well go ahead and type your name. Whoops. And hit enter. For the license, we're going to stick with ISC at the moment. Since we're not publishing it, it doesn't really matter. Now, I want to dispel that this command is doing anything magical. All this command's doing is it's creating a single file inside of your project. It's going to be in the root of the project, and it's called package.json. And the file is going to look exactly like this. Down below, you can hit enter or type yes to confirm that this is what you want to do. Now that we have the file created, we can actually view it inside of our project. Right here, we have the package.json file. And this is all it is. It's a simple description of your application. Now, as I mentioned, we're not going to be publishing our app to npm, so a lot of this information really isn't important to us. What is important, though, is that package.json is where we define the third-party modules we want to install in our application. And to install a module in the app, we are going to run a command over in the terminal. In this section, we're going to be installing a module called Lodash. Lodash comes with a ton of utility methods and functions that make developing inside of Node or JavaScript a heck of a lot easier. To take a look at what exactly we're getting into, let's go ahead and move into the browser. We're going to go to npmjs.com. Then we're going to search for the package Lodash, and you can see it comes up right here. When you click it, you should be taken to the package page, and the package page is going to show you a lot of statistics about the module and the documentation. Now, I use this package page when I'm looking for new modules. I like to see how many downloads it has and when it was last updated. Here, you can see it was updated recently, which is great. It means the package is most likely compatible with the latest versions of Node. And down below, you can see this is actually one of the most popular NPM packages with over 1 million downloads a day. We are going to be using this module to explore how to install NPM modules and how to actually use them in the project. The first thing you need to grab is just the module name, which is Lodash. Once you have that information, you're ready to install it. Back in the terminal, we're going to run npm install. After install, we're going to specify the module Lodash, just like this. Now, this command alone would work. What we're also going to do, though, is provide the save flag. This command is going to install the module, and we'll explore exactly what that means in a second. And the save flag, 2 hyphens, followed by the word save, is going to update the contents of the package.json file. Let's go ahead and run this command. This command is going to go off to the NPM servers and fetch the code and install it inside of your project. And anytime you install an NPM module, it's going to live in your project in a Node modules folder. Now, if you open that Node modules folder, you're going to see the Lodash folder right here. This is the module that we just installed. And you can see over in package.json, we've also had some updates automatically take place. There's a new dependencies attribute that has an object with key value pairs, where the key is the module we want to use in our project and the value is the version number. In this case, the most recent version, version 4.13.1. With this in place, we can now require our module inside of the project. Over inside of app.js, we can take advantage of everything that comes in Lodash by going through the same process of requiring it. We're going to make a const. We're going to name that const underscore, which is a common name for the Lodash utility library, and we're going to set it equal to require, just like this. Inside of here, we're going to pass in the module name exactly as it appears in the package.json file. This is the same module name you used when you ran npm install. Right here, we're going to type Lodash. And that is it. This is all it takes to include a third-party module in your project. Now, the order of operations is pretty important here. Node is first going to look for a core module with the name Lodash. It's not going to find one because there is no core module, so the next place it's going to look is the Node modules folder. Right here, it is going to find Lodash, and it's going to go ahead and load that module, returning any of the exports it provides. With this in place, we can now take advantage of some of the utilities that come with Lodash. We're going to explore 2 quickly in this video, and we'll be exploring more throughout the course, since Lodash is basically just a set of really handy utilities. Before we do, we should take a look at the documentation so we know exactly what we're getting into. This is a really common step when you're using an NPM module. First, you install it. Second, you got to look at those docs and make sure that you can get done what you want to get done. Down below, there really isn't a lot. They don't go through the API. That lives on a separate website. If you click the link or go to lodash.com and you click the API documentation page, you can view all of the various methods you have available to you. In this case, we're going to be using Command F to search for underscore dot is string. Then in the docs, I can go ahead and click it, opening it up in the main page. isString is a utility that comes with Lodash, and it returns true if the variable you pass in is a string, and it returns false if the value you pass in is not a string. And we can prove that using it over inside of Atom. Let's go ahead and use this. I'm going to console.log the result to the screen, and we're going to use underscore dot isString, passing in a couple values. Let's go ahead and pass in true first. Then we can duplicate this line, and we're going to pass in a string like Andrew. With this in place, we now have our Lodash module included, and we're taking advantage of some of the functions it provides. We can run our project over inside of the terminal using the same command we've used in the past, node space app.js to run our file. When we run the file, we get our two prompts that we've started both files, and we get false and then true. False comes because the Boolean is not a string, and true comes up because Andrew is indeed a string, so it passes the test of isString. This is one of the many utility functions that comes bundled with Lodash. Now, Lodash can do a lot more than simple type checking. It comes with a bunch of other utility methods we can take advantage of. Let's go ahead and explore one more before we wrap this video up. Back inside of the browser, we can use Command F again to search for this new one. It is _.uniq. Now, right here, this is not the one we want, so I'm going to click through a few times until we get to the one I want. Over here in the table of contents, we have _.uniq. This is the one we want. This unique method, all it takes is an array, and it returns that array with all duplicates removed. That means if I have the same number a few times or the same string, it's going to go ahead and remove any duplicates. Let's go ahead and run this one to wrap this video up. Back inside of Atom, we can add this into our project. I'm going to comment out our isString calls and replace it with a call to console.log. Above the call to console.log, we're going to make a variable called filtered array. This is going to be the array without the duplicates. And what we're going to do is call, after the equal sign, _.uniq. Now, as we know, this takes an array, and since we're trying to use the unique function, we're going to pass in an array with some duplicates. Go ahead and use your name twice as a string. I'm going to use my name once, followed by the number 1, followed by my name again. Then I can use 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now, if things go as planned, we should get an array with all the duplicates removed, which means we'll have one instance of Andrew, one instance of 1, and 2, 3, 4, which don't have duplicates. The last thing to do is to print that using console.log so we can view it inside of the terminal. Right here, I'm going to pass in the filtered array variable to our console.log statement. From here, we can go ahead and run our project inside of Node. I'm going to use the up arrow key to run the last command. Then I can press the enter key. And right here, you see we get our array with all duplicates removed. We have one instance of the string Andrew, one instance of the number 1, and then we have 2, 3, 4, exactly what we expected. The Lodash utility really is endless. There are so many functions it can be kind of overwhelming to explore at first. But as you start creating more JavaScript and Node projects, you're going to find yourself solving a lot of the same problems over and over again when it comes to sorting, filtering, or type checking. And in that case, it's best to use a utility like Lodash to get that lifting done. Lodash is great because 1, you don't have to keep rewriting your methods, and 2, it is well tested and it has been tried in production. If there are any issues, they've been sorted out by now. Now that you know how to use a third-party module, there is one more thing I want to discuss. That is the Node modules folder in general. When you take your Node project and you put it on GitHub, like we'll be doing later, or you're copying it around or sending it to a friend, the Node modules folder really shouldn't be taken with you. The Node modules folder contains generated code. This is not code you've written, and you should never make any updates to the files inside of Node modules because there's a pretty good chance they're going to get overwritten next time you install some modules. In our case, we've already defined the modules and the versions inside of package.json because we use that handy save flag. This actually means we can delete the Node modules folder completely. Now we can copy the folder and give it to a friend. We can put it on GitHub, whatever we want to do. When we want to get that Node modules folder back, all we have to do inside of the terminal is run npm install without any module names or any flags. npm install, when ran without any names or flags, is going to load in your package.json file, grab all of the dependencies, and install them. After running this command, the Node modules folder is going to look exactly as it looked before we deleted it. Now, when you are using Git and GitHub, instead of deleting the Node modules folder, you're just going to ignore it from your repository. If that means nothing to you, that's fine. We will be exploring the basics of Git later. But for now, I wanted to let you know this because when I add the lecture files to Udemy, I am not going to be including the Node modules folder because it takes up a lot of space and it's a pain to download. It also gets generated differently depending on the version of npm you install, so it's best to always generate the Node modules folder on your local machine. That means when you download a zip from the lecture files, you're going to unzip it, navigate into the project, run npm install, then you can run the code that you downloaded. With that in place, we are done. We've explored a little bit about npm, how we can use npm init to generate a package.json file, and how we can install and use third-party modules. Now, this is a process we're going to be going through a lot more throughout the course. So if it still seems foreign, or you're not quite sure why it's even useful, I promise it will become clear as we do more with our third-party modules, rather than just type checking or looking for unique items in an array. There's a ton of power behind the NPM community, and we're going to be harnessing that to our fullest as we make real-world apps. For now, though, that is it. So stay tuned, and I will see you next time.